Josh Thomson, longtime training partner, teammate, friend. Welcome to episode number 5 of MMA Headlines, my new segment on the Real Quick Mike Swick podcast. Welcome to the show again.
I know, it's been fun, man. It's been 10 months.
Is it weird that I said welcome to the show again and you haven't told me welcome to the show even one time on your show? Like, what is the deal with that? I thought this was like a collaboration. This is more like a fucking just come on my show thing.
No. We're going to have you on, man.
Because I got less people that watch my show, you got to come on like 15 times for me to get one time on your show. Is that what it comes out to or what?
Now you're just digging on me right now. You're just giving me a hard time.
Yeah.
No, we'll get you on for sure, man. I can't wait, man.
No, I just love talking to you, man. You know, it's been so long. We were teammates for so long. So when we weren't punching each other in the face, we were talking. And like now I don't get to see you, don't get to talk to you. So it's just cool to have you on the show, man. Talk about some headlines. How you been doing, first of all?
Good, man. A lot of traveling right now. Bellator's been having a lot of fights, so been gone quite a bit. And, on the road. Excuse me. I just I've been looking over in Texas and Florida and stuff. Moving out there and getting ready to start probably moving out there. So we'll see what happens.
Everybody's doing that, dude. All that high taxes and craziness in California.
It's insane, man. I got a lot of friends that moved to Idaho too, in the Boise area, and some friends that moved to Tennessee, which is also nice. That Nashville area is nice. Mm-hmm. Knoxville's nice. Memphis is nice. So it really depends on what your pickle is. On where you want to live and how you might like it. So who knows, man? I think people are realizing that they can live anywhere in the United States and still be happy. It really depends on what's important to you. So
yeah. So it's 6 a.m. for you, just so everybody knows. So obviously, thank you for doing the podcast so early, and that's why you're tired right now. But you look amazing for 52. So not bad. You don't even look a day over 51. It's very good.
I see you're holding up well. Every time I see you, you're shredded and ripped. Yes, I got to get on that old man diet like you, buddy.
Dude, the thing is like, because I've always been a little bit like I work out aesthetically. I'm not trying to be a fighter, so always trying to get big and like not look so skinny as I was in my career. But then I would get big, and it's hard to get like thin once you get big. So I figured I would just starve myself to death, train super hard, and be like super like thin, then get big. And then I've just been stuck thin for so long that I can't. It's like harder to get big. So but getting to rock status, like the Rock, like my goal, it's a little harder than I thought. So yeah, I got like 45, 50 pounds to go or more. I don't even know.
Yeah. I don't think that's. I think he's more on the science diet.
He's on something that I can't even begin to fathom or understand. So we'll get into the headlines real fast. So the first one, the main one that everyone's talking about right now, and I've had him on the show. Our podcast is going crazy right now, mostly because his trainer took over the podcast at like an hour in, and then literally spoke for the last hour. I didn't get a single word in, but he definitely addressed a lot of different things. You can tell he's got a lot of issues that he's trying to get out there. So it's Diego and Fabia. I think it's Fabia, but. Obviously, there's just so many different things we could talk about. I don't even know where to start. I mean, there's obviously the Diego part. We all love Diego. He's a legend of the sport. And then so there's that respect, and we love Diego. Then there's the part of Fabia. He has points. Is he going about it the right way? And then he doesn't have some points. It's a mixture of just so many different things. Now he's gotten to the point where, and he wants to come back on the show, but I don't want negative vibes on the show, and I know it's going to be. There's no way we're not going to be more negative than we were the first podcast to people. So I just don't want that energy on here. But like they're attacking people now. So instead of just being mad at the UFC, they're attacking like. One of the things they attacked was like Matt Serra, Joe Rogan, and Dana for being on steroids and growth hormone, which is like they're not competing. Who cares? Then he just attacked Donald Cerrone and played a video of him saying the N-word, backstage or something like that. I don't know why he's attacking Donald Cerrone. So it's like I don't know what's going on because this guy's supposed to be so positive and positive energy. And I know Diego would never say these things. Like I've known Diego for so long, and we've done charity events together. We've done speaking events together, and he's always been so positive and so nice, and this guy is supposed to be bringing more positivity to him. Then you got the whole hanging upside down, getting punched in the face and getting kicked while you're hanging upside down. There's so many things to go into. Just what's your thoughts? I know you did say that he had some good points. Everybody obviously thinks there's got to be some good points in there, but how do you think that I saw an article where you said he had some good points, but what is your overall thoughts on everything as far as what he's saying and how he's handling it? He got paid from the UFC. As you know, I think that your point was they're not going to call him and pick up his phone. We all know that. We know the UFC is done with him. What's he trying to do now? And is it the right thing to do? Or should he just move on?
Like what he's trying to do now is it's ridiculous. They just need to move on. And the problem is, though, is they're not They're not willing to move on. Joshua Fabia has made it about him. It's not about him. It's about Diego Sanchez. And when you start making it about you, and you're not even irrelevant. You're no one of importance. He's irrelevant to the sport itself.
Yeah.
Diego hasn't won with him in his corner. So obviously, whatever it is you're doing, you're not doing anything right. So, there's what I meant by he has some points. He has some points in terms of like. About Dana's not going to pick up the call. Right. That's one. Dana doesn't care anymore. He's totally moved on. Doesn't matter what he says. Dana has been able to, not just about anything. It could be just about anything. Like going back early for to have fights. With COVID, having live gates, like doing all these things. It's just slid off of Dana. Yeah. But the thing is, he's also leading the way, and you can't be mad at it. All the other things are irrelevant, whether he's having sex with fighters in blah, 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 or whoever else that works for the company, all that other shit. Guess what? That's all personal adult shit, like right there. If you're a fighter, you're over 18, and nobody can confirm, that if it did happen. And everyone knows, like I'm not a big like Dana and I are not fans of each other. I don't think, but I don't have a problem with him. It's just like, but that's not something I would get into. It doesn't matter if he was, hooking up with fighters, hooking up with staff, or hooking up with whoever. That's no one else's damn business. Right. And if the other party hasn't come forward and said anything, then who gives a shit? So this guy's just trying to start more shit, cause more drama, get more attention, have the media more about him, and Diego is just standing idly by, just watching it all unfold. And it's unfortunate because the positive attitude that Dana had, or not Dana, but that Diego had left the sport with, it's gone. And the thing as well, like I didn't see the video about with Cowboy possibly using the N-word, but like those moments though, like no one knows the setting. Was he talking with friends? Like let's just say he was talking, with somebody else that that was African American or whatever. Like what if that's their group? What if it's just their group? Everyone. Like, what are you doing videotaping him? That's kind of creepy also. Like, were you part of the conversation?
I think it was just caught on tape somewhere, and then he heard about it and played it. And I guess I understand that. To answer my own question, why he attacked Cowboy was Cowboy attacked him. So I think he's just attacking people that attacked him. So Matt Serra must have attacked him too. I don't want to attack him because I have all the respect in the world for him. I just don't get why they're going about it the way they're going about it now, and I don't see what they're going to accomplish by doing that. And exposing Cerrone, if he did say something racist, however long ago it was, whenever it was, doesn't really help his fight. It's not going to get him anything. Him being a part of this school of self-awareness and Joshua doing all this stuff together, I don't think, of course they have some people supporting them, whether they're just egging them on to do more crazy stuff or they're actually supporting them. I don't think they're going to grow their brand by doing hateful things to people. You know what I mean? I don't think they're going to make money from this in their own.
Swick, nobody is supporting them. People are supporting Diego. It's not a them thing. People are supporting Diego, and that's the thing.
True.
There's a difference. People love all the things that Diego has done for them over the years. What great fights, the energy, the very first Ultimate Fighter winner. Those type of things. Those are things that people don't forget, and they want to be on his side. But this is not his coach or whoever this guy is not allowing that. And when you start spewing out just a bunch of negative stuff out there to get more attention, it just lets you know that you basically lost your good standing with the UFC and Dana White and whoever else because you let this guy step in the middle and start talking. I'm sorry, but Mike, we've been through this before with other coaches at AKA. Remember how coaches all of a sudden left the gym because they couldn't come in the cage?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I've had coaches at AK argue backstage when I was walking out about who's going to go in the cage, and it was a huge deal, more important than my fight when I was about to walk out. And I'm like, dude, guys, I'm about to fight. Like, I don't give a shit who comes in my cage.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, when coaches start talking about who it's going to be or who's going to go inside, like, I get it, like, in between corners, if someone's cut, you have two and they come inside the cage. But I'm talking about after the fight.
Right.
After the fight, who gets to go in? We actually had a coach that left the gym because he couldn't go in the cage after the fight. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to let it remain nameless. But it's like when you have coaches that are like that, you got to get rid of them, man. Yeah. Then it's become now all of a sudden about them. And that's what's going on with this Joshua Fabia guy. It's becoming all about him. And I mean, all these other things that you're seeing, like I feel bad for Diego. This whole hanging down, upside down video, getting, just lightly slapped in the face.
It was pretty hard. He was kicking him too. Like it wasn't like.
But still, that's not even like not even so much my point. My point is that like when things like this are getting out, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And Fabia has made it all about him.
And another thing that bothers me a little bit is because Fabia has a different personality. He's who he is. Whether he tries to preach that he's positive or not, he's a negative guy. He's very, very negative. I've seen so many videos of him enter a room, like the one with when he did the pre-fight address to the commentators, and he just lashes out cursing and like anger from the start before he even gives them a chance to do anything wrong. And like Felder and some of the other people, they never even commented and did anything wrong. So he's a very negative person. And the problem is Diego's posting all these stories and like the Cerrone thing and a lot of these other hateful things. And it doesn't say Fabia's posting them. You know what I'm saying? Like he's going through Diego and posting them, and it looks like Diego's story, and it doesn't say anything. It's a school of self-awareness, which they both have interest in, but it doesn't say from Fabia. You know what I mean? So it's like Diego's doing something that I know Diego wouldn't do. I know the Diego I know wouldn't be posting stories being so negative and so hateful towards people. And I think that's what's hurting the worst, his reputation. And then a second part is for you, being as experienced as you are in the sport, if you were someone like Scott Coker or another organization head, does this play a role? I mean, would you be quick to bring on Diego now that the UFC dropped him and then he's acting this way? Wouldn't that scare the shit out of you to bring him on and let him possibly get insight in your guys and your organization and then all of a sudden this could happen to you as well? Like it's kind of one of those things where it's like poison, right? Or no?
Yeah. Okay. So look, this is we also had another fighter who fought with us towards the end of his career, and his identity was fighting, and you see him now, and he'll remain nameless as well. But his identity, his identity was fighting. His identity was the UFC. His identity was pride. His identity was all the things, that made him a fighter. And look, you said the Diego Sanchez that I know, but the problem is that you don't know that Diego anymore.
Yeah,
that's right. The problem. And that's the sad part, is that Diego throughout his career has changed just a little bit. And since you've known him, he's not the same Diego anymore. And when you hang your hat on everything about fighting, like anytime I see a fighter with their Twitter handle or their Instagram handle that says UFC in it, I'm like, you're just identifying just as a UFC fighter. What happens when you're not with the UFC anymore?
Yeah, I see that too.
Like, who are you? Who are you? That's the problem. So, that's what changes fighters as a person, as a personality, whatever it is. Like when they're done with that, they have nowhere to go. They don't know how to hang their hat on anything. You know what I mean? So what makes them another person? For the last 15, 20 years, he's been identifying himself as a UFC fighter. Now he's not that. And Joshua Fabia is making it worse, because he has nothing. He thought he was going to be able to ride this train a little bit longer. And really, I'm just being honest, man. When I said Joshua Fabia had some points, I meant like points about like medical stuff, and and you can tell like Diego doesn't seem the same person as if when he was the Ultimate Fighter. Mm-hmm. No matter how much you like and want to watch him fight, you got to be real with the reality of the situation. Diego's taking a lot of damage. And so that scares a lot of people. And when you start asking the UFC for private medical information that their doctors have and all this other stuff, those are the things that people, if I was a promotion, those are the things I'd be concerned about. And if I was another promotion, there's absolutely no way I would sign him. Absolutely. Not just based off of like some previous medical stuff, but you can tell that Diego is not, that he's having some issues. Anytime you allow someone like this, and this is a very like cultish type thing, where you kind of allow someone to overtake, whether it's your social media, overtake your interviews, it goes to show. The old Diego that you knew wouldn't allow that. Yeah. He would make it about him. He would make it the fact that he is a fighter. You know what I mean? And so that's what he would do. And so that's the scary part. I don't think there's any promotion out there that's going to sign him.
Yeah. So we both agree then that it's not the way to handle it, and he's not going about it the right way, and this is going to end pretty bad, I think.
Well, what it is, it's not. Yeah, I don't think it's going to end bad. Nothing's going to happen.
I mean, it's going to end bad because he's not going to have a job. That's where it's going to end bad.
Look, he's made a lot of money in his career. He's made a ton of money.
I have a feeling he doesn't have all of that, though. That's the problem.
Look, that's no one else's issue.
I get it.
Like that.
I agree.
I've said this over and over and over again. Fighters, if you think they're just staying with the UFC, I've said this because Eddie Alvarez has done it right. Eddie Alvarez bounced from promotion to promotion to promotion, normally became champion in those promotions, and he made a ton of money. He's making a ton of money in the One Championship right now. These guys get stuck. Like I said with Diego, he's stuck on his identity being involved with the UFC. Everything about him is just UFC. There's no what's going to happen now that identity's gone. Mm. So if that happens, then what?
Yeah.
Like that's what scares me. We see other fighters. That's all they've identified as. So when that's taken away, what do they do mentally? What do they do? Do they have a mental breakdown? I mean, the amount of damage that he's taken, throughout his career, you start wondering and getting scared. Is there going to be problems? And that's what scares, I think, me and Big John and I were talking about it. Is that's what scares me about Diego, is that he's been an emotional roller coaster his whole life. And he's been that guy that has to, yell on the way to the cage. Don't get me wrong. I believe it's right. Like, yes, yes, yes. It's all mental. It's all, preparing himself mentally for it. Well, he wasn't prepared mentally to say goodbye, and they cut him off. So what kind of effect is that going to happen now that he's not a UFC fighter, and everything about him, his Instagram handle, his Twitter handle all says, Diego Nightmare Sanchez, UFC, and that's gone now. That's gone. So what do you do?
Yeah, and we definitely saw that with Rose too. I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm the best. You know what I mean? Like sometimes, of course, Diego looked way more intense, and people like to make fun of him because he looks so intense. But sometimes, that's what you got to do. You got to tell yourself, to get in that right mindset. And Rose was like, "I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm the best." Before she fought, she won the championship. Good for her. We'll move on from that, though. We definitely. Go ahead.
That's because she is the best.
She did. She confirmed it. She confirmed it, definitely. And it wasn't just because she said it. All right, fellas, you want to help the podcast? Here is your opportunity. You can save 20% now and get free shipping on the best below-the-waist men's grooming products on the market by going to manscaped.com, manscaped.com. Today, use code QUICK. That's my nickname, not how you use the product. And you get 20% off, free shipping. It's a win-win for everyone. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, and now they're available in Europe, Canada, and Australia. And yes, I actually use these products. I'm getting more shipped right now. I got the Manscaped bag here, got the preserver, got the reviver, the crop mop, a whole bag of crop mops, and they even give you this. So you can actually use Manscaped to manscape your eyebrows and your toes. Huh? It's like the best. It is everything you need to appeal to your lady friend. So, don't thank me. Thank yourself for going to manscaped.com, entering code QUICK, and getting your order at 20% off discount and free shipping. But moving on to a similar, I'll segue easy here to a different headline, and that's Cerrone, because of the fact it's kind of similar to what we're talking about. Cerrone's a great guy. Love his style, love his fighting, ambassador to the sport, just a fucking true legend. 50-something fights. I don't even know, like 62 or 52 or something like that last time I counted. Yeah. And he just lost. And what's going to happen with him now? It didn't look like a great fight. And like Habib said before, you can't have your prime twice. You can't, there's no two primes. I don't see what he can do to get better. And I'll say this because every time I look at his Instagram, he's always at the BMF ranch on his like go-kart and skiing. Like he's never training. And so it's like, I remember when me and you trained at AKA, we had no time to do anything else. And that was in the height of our career. And we were trying to get better, and we were probably slowly getting better, but we were already kind of in our career, just getting ready for fights and slowly improving. for him to make a drastic change to be able to hang with guys at 38 years old and be able to actually be relevant, I think he would have to stop doing everything else and train every day, like wrestling, for instance, to get Moreno down and things like that. But when every single post is him doing things out on his ranch, he can't possibly be training 6 days a week, 2 times a day like we were. So where does that leave him right now? He said he wasn't going to retire, or he doesn't want to. He wants to keep going. He's been knocked out 8 times so far, and that's not counting training. I love the guy. I want to see the guy continue to fight, but I want to also see him healthy. And what is your take?
Well, my take is that I believe he could be training, twice a day, or maybe 3 times a day, but probably just twice a day, and still be doing all the other stuff. But the problem is, he's not getting the quality of training that he could be if he was resting between those.
I was exhausted between classes or between training.
Yeah, exactly. So, don't get me wrong. There was moments throughout my career where I just didn't have it in the gym, is because I was out doing whatever in between, or like I used to say, like during the time that I lost to Clay Guida, I was Trevor Pranglin had to pull me aside after the fight and be like, hey, I wasn't going to say anything because you'd been winning fights.
Yeah.
He's like, but you're out at the nightclub until 1, 2 in the morning, get back home, and then go run in the morning. Yeah, and then I go to noon training, and then we train and hit mitts at night. He's like, how are you doing it?
Yeah.
He's like, and obviously it's not working.
Yeah. And
so it was a little come to Jesus talk that he had with me, and it saved my career, I believe. And so so sure, Donald can do it, but you're not getting the best Donald in training, which means you're not going to get the best Donald in the fight.
Yeah.
And so the other thing as well is that he's got 2 young kids. He's got 2 young boys. I think one of them is Danger. I don't know the name of the other one, but he's got 2 young boys, and he's got a full big ranch to take care of. Look, I think it is time for him to move on, and there's no knock on him whatsoever. If he wants to go back down to 55, go right ahead. But it's in terms of he's not going to be champion. It's not going to happen. Right. And it's sad, because he has been a gamer. He has been someone that every time the phone call has, every time his phone rings, he's picked up the call, and he's just thought to himself, okay, I'll just take any fight, anytime, anywhere kind of situation. And sometimes it's backfired on him because he was the number 1 contender and he lost, and then he didn't get a title shot, and like all these things, but he's made a ton of money as well. He's also spent a ton of money.
Yeah, he's admitted that.
I continue to go back to this. This is my biggest thing. If you are a fighter and you spend money like you're an NFL player or an NBA player or a baseball player, you're going to be broke.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll be broke. I hope he's done enough with his money. Maybe everything's paid off, but he needs to. I feel like he is a walking reality TV show. Yeah. And if anyone doesn't pick him up in terms of life on the BMF ranch or something like that, like almost like remember Rob and Big?
Yeah.
Having a show like that, where you're out there, and it's like they had the skate park and the business,
the big factory and all that.
Yeah, they had all of that, and so there was a lot of fun. And I think the same thing can be said for what Donald does. I mean, to make him, a TV, have a reality show about him, and then other fighters that come in to train with him, other fighters that come in to, to do all the things. And what he does, he takes them out horseback riding, he takes them out, quadding, he takes them all, wakeboarding, whatever it is. I think that if the UFC would be foolish not to do something like that. You kind of know how they use Matt Serra for, Dana White's is it contenders or the looking for a fight or whatever it was.
For a fight, yeah.
Whatever that show was. But I would think that they should do something like that. They should try to integrate Cowboy, because he's got a great personality as well. And there's so much stuff and so much knowledge that he knows, whether it's hunting, any of that stuff. I think it'd be awesome. And you take some of your older fighters, that are retired now or just getting ready to retire, like Clay Guida, and you've got Chad Mendez, who are avid hunters, and you get the 3 of those knuckleheads together. Can you imagine a show with those 3 guys?
Yeah. I love those guys.
It'd be awesome, man. Like if you put a little show with those avid hunter guys, and they get together and have their own TV show. I think there's something there to be had for those guys, but they got to team up, or the UFC's got to maybe try and get them some sort of connection and get back in there. I don't know, just my idea. But in terms of fighting, I'd like to see him retire. I don't. It's not that I don't want to see him fight more. I do, but I also care about people in general. And I'm just seeing too many of these guys holding on too long, and that was a big reason why I decided to retire. I just realized in the gym I wasn't the same. Guys that, that shouldn't be hitting me are hitting me. and they're hitting me more often, harder, and everything hurts a little bit
Was that
more.
me? Was that me that was doing that, or?
No, it was Swick. We both know it was never you.
Oh, stop, dude. Stop, dude.
We both
I'm gonna
know.
save your ego on the show and just go with you on this one.
Yeah. Oh man, I love it. But no, it's one of those things like, yeah, you got to move on, and I don't want to see him fight. As a fighter, for me, it was time to retire. And they know. That's the thing. There's guys. There's guys that they're fighting. There's guys that they're training with that are beating them up. That are having more success with them than they weren't before. And that's the problem.
And the crazy thing is like you said, that they need to create something that creates an opportunity for these guys. I agree with you 100%. I think the guys that put the time in, especially our Hall of Famers and guys that should be Hall of Famers that may not be quite to that level, but have put the time in and had maybe a certain amount of fights, should have a place, and there should be a department dedicated to getting something for these guys, because they have value to a company that's a fighting company. They have some kind of value to a fighting organization worth $4 billion. And the fact that they're owned by a talent agency, you would think that since they have a talent agency owning the fighting company, that there's got to be a mix of something in there that can find something for these guys to do, like what you said, like a reality show or something like that. And then just one other quick point. A lot of people don't think about this, but it's like, he should retire. Dana should tell him he should retire or not retire or whatever the case. This is what the fans hear. What the fans don't hear and understand is no matter how much money he has, how much money I have or you have or we had when we finished fighting to we moved on to business and stuff like that, you never make as much until you get bigger into business as you do when you have that fight. That's a big chunk of money. Like it's a lot of money coming in. When you retire and when Dana says you can't fight anymore or suggests you don't fight anymore, whatever the case, it's the same as getting laid off, because it's not like we don't want you to fight because your health. Yeah, that's true. But it's also like you're also not going to get a big payday anymore. So it's like, it's kind of a double-edged sword where we care about you, but you're going to have to go find another job now. And it's like, that's a scary ass thought for somebody who spent 52 fights fighting pro and might not have a business opportunity other than sponsors and stuff like that lined up.
Yeah, you know what scares me? This is why I took such a hard take on the Reebok deal and now the Venom deal, is that a lot of fighters were living off sponsors that would pay them to get through their camp. So let's just say, like, okay, I used to have a sponsor that paid me $15,000 a fight, and what they do is they on top of the $15,000 a fight, they'd send me $500 or $1,000 a month, until my next fight, especially during camp. Right. So it would be like, hey, we're going to pay you $15,000, for your fight, but then we're going to go ahead and pay you during your 10-week camp. We're going to pay you, say we're going to pay you $200 a week, or we'll pay you, whatever, $1,000 for the 8-week camp, or something like that. And so you had a little bit of money that came in during that time, because sometimes it was a long time. Like for me, I had one stint where I was 16 months with no fights because I kept getting injured. And so that money, it wasn't so much like, oh, we're pissed off that we lost the sponsorship. We can't have sponsors in the cage. No, we're pissed off because a lot of them knew that they could sponsor us in the cage. And so they go ahead and give us like a monthly stipend to get us through. And so that the Reebok deal and the Venom deal, I mean, I haven't looked too much into the Venom deal, so I don't really know. I know that the money went up a little bit, but not enough. I mean, like I said, like towards the end of those deals, right? When I fought Benson Henderson, I almost made $100,000. Yeah. Just $100,000 off sponsors just for Benson. You know what I mean? And sure, that was a big fight, but it was on Fox, but it was like the money is there. The money is, and you got to remember, all those sponsors during that time were paying the UFC to sponsor me, and they still were paying me $100,000. Yeah. So that's a lot of money. Like, remember, because the UFC had that little area there where they had to, if you had sponsors, they had to submit their paperwork. Right. And those, and then they had to basically show their financials just to sponsor fighters. And so when that all happened, they stole a lot of money from the fighters.
I had a few fights where I got 60 to 65,000 for my fights and sponsors, and that was like the heyday. That was like after Zion's when it first like picked up and sponsors were so big. But I literally would carry my shorts and my shirt and my carry-on. I wouldn't even put it in my luggage, and like I carried it I looked at it I looked in my bag every few minutes to make sure it was still there, because it was like $65,000 for those shorts. If you imagine if I lost those shorts and couldn't fight in them, like I would have been so much trouble, right? But I agree with you on that, and it's a big problem. And I agree with you that fighters need to set up business like we did, and have things set up afterwards, because I lost a few of my fights at the end of my career because my foot was out the door setting up business. But now I'm happy and I'm living a life that I wouldn't have been able to live if I fought to my dying day and then decided all of a sudden at 38, 40 years old, oh shit, let me try to start business now. With all these 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds that are coming out of college and doing all this crazy shit.
Yeah, what scares me is this. Guys that continue to fight on, that potentially could have had a career in some sort of speaking engagements, whether it's being an analyst, whether it's being a cage side commentary, whether it's being a back locker room reporter, whatever it is. Some of them have that potential, but they continue to fight on, and now all of a sudden their words are getting a little slurred. Their content is not. They can't form the conversation fast enough. All of those things can be said.
Absolutely.
Like they have other avenues. Like like I said with Cowboy, I would hate to see a TV deal potentially slip away if you continue to fight, and then all of a sudden now people are having a hard time understanding you. Like I said, we've had fighters in the past that in AKA where I can't even talk to some of them on the phone now, because it's like they're mumbling. It's like talking to them through a snorkel, and it's like we're underwater. He's in a snorkel, and I can't understand anything he's saying, and it's hard. It's hard. Like a lot of fighters now, like I don't know if you've ever had this experience when they call me and they say they've been fighting for a long time. They call me. I don't pick up their phone calls anymore. I'm like, just text me, because I can't understand you. Because they've fought so long that you just can't understand what they're saying through the phone.
Yeah, I mean, I can vouch for you, because unlike you, because you don't get a lot of guests on your show, you do a lot of stuff with just Big John, which is amazing. Your show's fantastic, weighing in. Obviously, everybody knows. But for me, I book every guest. So, I've done 130 podcasts, but I have to book every single talent that comes on, prepare for the interview, do the interview. And it would blow your mind how hard it is to book a freaking fighter. Like most of the time, it is unbelievable. And it's not that getting a hold of them. It's not them saying yes. It's the fact of scheduling. It's the fact of them understanding what they have going on and them trying to plan it. It's like, I'm like to my holy shit, what are you going to do, man? Like, I'm just like, it blows my mind how hard it is just to book someone for a podcast sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's only from fighting, but I'm just saying in general. Like, I'm sure some of it is just like they're going all different directions, but it's just, I've noticed what you're talking about, definitely.
No, that's a big reason why we don't have guests on our show. Is that every time we try to arrange them, they almost feel like, and I've said this, and I'll continue to say this, is that they almost feel like they're too good for it.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Sometimes we've had people on, and it's like battling them to come on because they feel like, oh, okay, I'll do it. It's like I'm the one here trying to pump you, man. I'm like, I get it if you don't want to do it with a very small, but
why you gotta look at me, bro? Why you gotta look at me when you talk about small podcasts?
No. Here's the thing, though. No,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, bro. Go ahead.
No, here's the thing. You have the in. You've had a lot of great people on. You've had Khabib on. You've had other Anthony Smith. You've had good people on, man. I have a hard time booking people because
it's tough for me too.
Well, it's not even. You have a little bit. It's a little bit easier for you because you're in the good graces of the UFC, and this is another thing. Because John and I are not so much, I guess you could say. Even though we love speaking about the fighters and we love all the fighters, I know that fighters won't want to do our show because, like I said, they identify with the UFC. Their Instagram and their Twitter is, it says whatever their name is, UFC, and so they feel that if they do our interview with us, that that maybe it'll reflect badly on with Dana or with the UFC, and which is not the case. Dana's we repeatedly said any press is good press, and that's really what it comes down to. And it's maybe he doesn't like it sometimes, and it's not not good for him or anybody else or the UFC. But at the end of the day, that's what keeps people talking about them. And so any press is good press, and and he's made it through this far, and I don't think he's just gonna stop all of a sudden. I mean, you got to think. He was trying to throw a fight in an Indian reservation during a fucking worldwide pandemic. And he almost did it until Walt Disney called and said, no, you got to shut it down. Yeah, right. Let's just play it safe right now. I mean, I admire his determination. I mean, that to me was pretty impressive. I thought it was a little careless at the time, but then when he went to Jacksonville, I wasn't opposed to it. when he just did his last fight, right? The last fight was in Jacksonville, right, with Masvidal and Usman.
I'm not sure where
I
it was.
wasn't opposed to it.
Yeah.
Some states have moved on. Not to get into too much politics of it at all, but some states have moved on. I've traveled all around the U.S., for Bellator, and flying into Detroit, flying into Atlanta, flying into Salt Lake, Dallas, but all different types of airports. A lot of states have moved on.
Yeah.
I think just you're getting a lot of pushback from the states that have it, and the people that live in those states. So I just I don't think anything's going to really reflect on him. No, nothing's going to really reflect off of Dana. He's going to continue to do what he does, and it's good for him.
Yeah.
And for us, we have a hard time booking clients or booking interviews because I think people are afraid that maybe that the UFC will look badly on them because they weren't on our show. But I'm like, look, I'm just here to make everyone look good, man. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to kind of dig into you a little bit, at times, depending on what your circumstances are. But, but I mean, as well as I know, you know me.
Yeah.
I'm one of those tough love guys.
Yeah.
And I have been for the longest time. And as much as I love fighters, as much as I want them all to be successful after fighting, it's very rare that it happens. And when I talk about NFL and NBA, and there's a great ESPN, I think it's 30 for 30. It's called Broke, and these professional I don't know if you guys remember a receiver, I believe for the Falcons, Andre Rison, I think was his name. He made like they were saying like almost $200 million or something throughout his career, broke, like dead broke. He was also married to a rapper, and she died, Left Eye. I think he was married to her, and then she died. But then they were married. And so a lot of her money also went, and they were broke. It's like you were married to someone who was a celebrity, who had money. Then she passed, and I think you acquired that money or whatever. And then you also made a ton of money, and now you're still broke. Like, if you don't think that a fighter's pay, if you don't learn how to budget your money and take care of yourself, make proper investments, always err on the side of caution, you're going to end up broke too. Because you don't make a fraction of what these big sports make.
Do you agree with Dana when he said, because a lot of people flipped out about this, and I agree to some degree when I can explain myself, but do you agree with the comment that he said when he said, and I think that he said this, okay, don't hold me to it, but I think he said something along the lines of the UFC is not a career, it's an opportunity, and then people got freaked out and mad and angry saying, why is it not a career? You should make enough money and it should be a career and all this and that. But I think the point he was trying to make, which I understand and why I set something up for after this, is because I knew going in that I wasn't going to fight until my dying day. Like, I knew that it was going to be something temporary. So maybe career, opportunity, whatever you want to call it, it was temporary for sure. And I had to make the most of it and then utilize whatever I could and however much I could take for my career, my name, whatever the hell I could build up for myself and project that or move that into business and then build the best business that I can and then try to make the most of my, my situation after my fighting career. Do you agree with that as far as like fighters should more focus on, I mean, you always want to be a champion and do the best you can, but you gotta be thinking about the long term. And this happens with a lot of sports guys, like you said, and a lot of entertainers. You can't do this forever unless you're like DiCaprio and shit like that. There's going to be a time you're going to fall off and you're going to be done, especially in sports, and you got to rely on something else. And if you don't get it started and get it going, or at least a plan made, you're going to be in deep trouble.
Yeah, these guys. I started my gym like right when I was fighting Benson Henderson. It was like the biggest distraction of my career. But I also knew that losing one fight, sure, I probably wouldn't get to the title like I was supposed to several times. And it just was one of those situations where, like, look, I knew it was coming to a close. I mean, when I fought Benson, I think I was 36. So I was about to turn 37. I was going to be 37 that year. And so I just knew. I knew already. I'm like, look, you're going to get one run. Once I lost to Benson, I was like, it's done. You're not going to give you a title shot. You're at a stage in your career now, where they're not going to give you a title shot. So they're going to move on, and you're seeing that happen right now. They're releasing fighters that are, in their upper 30s and it's smart on their part. That's really what nothing changes like the NFL and the NBA. That's what they do also, but the reality of it is that fighters need to start learning how to budget their money, take care of themselves, and understand that they're going to be broke at the end of their career if they don't do that. And then on top of that, what you're doing is you have to invent yourself all over again after fighting. Because who are you? What are you? You've spent 20 years, let's just say 20 years of your life trying to be one of the best fighters in the world. And whether you're a champion or you weren't a champion, you succeeded on getting to the biggest platforms in the world. That's great. That's amazing. But that's not going to make your retirement any easier.
Right.
So when I tell people, like, you have to remember, you need to save enough money to get yourself through the next 40 years of your life. Just say, like I said with Cerrone, like, he may live another 40 years. He's 37. He may live another 40 years. And if God willing, he does. But do you have enough money put away to live the lifestyle you're living now? And that was the one thing I've always done. I've always made sure that that lifestyle that I'm living, I built it up. Like, I bought, when I bought my house, I'm just going to use this as an example. I bought my house when the market crashed, in 2008, 2009, and it wasn't my dream house. It wasn't like something that I was like, oh, I like it. It's nice. It had the bones of the house was very nice. But then as time went on, I had a couple more fights. I made a little bit more money. I just started adding into what I liked about it and what I wanted. I put a pool in. I put a nice barbecue setup outside. I have a drive-through garage now, so I can drive from the front of the house through the garage all the way to the backyard if I want. It's not anything spectacular. It's not huge. But guess what? It feels like home to me now. Yeah. And that's what I think people get mistaken is, I'm looking at houses right now in Texas and in Florida and even sometimes in Nashville in the Tennessee area. And then looking at those areas, right, I'm looking at houses that I'm like, damn, I can get this for this much money. Yeah. That's the hardest part is you have to rein yourself in. Yeah, right. And you have to say, hey, you know what? I don't need that house. Even though I know it's the same, if I was to sell my house, I could just roll it right into a 1035 exchange, but the thing is, I don't need that house. Some of those houses in Texas, everything's bigger in Texas. Well, they ain't lying. Yeah. I was looking at some places. I'm like, dang, this is only $1 million. And I'm like, cause my house here is a fraction of the size and we're double that. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's like, wow, this thing's only worth $1 million. I'm like, damn, I can get this. But I don't need a 5,000 and 6,000 square foot house. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need that. Nobody needs that. But it's that you want it, and it's up to you. And I don't need it. And so it's just more rooms to put more shit in. And it goes back to that movie Fight Club. It's like, I buy stuff to impress people. I buy stuff I don't want or need, to impress people I don't like. All this whole story about it. But it's true though, right? I mean, like, that's how it is. Like, people can make money and they buy things they don't need to impress people they don't like. And it's upsetting. It's like, when I see it, I'm thinking to myself, you don't need this stuff. Like, I don't need a lot of even the stuff that's in my house now. There's a lot of stuff I don't need. Yeah. You know what I mean? I have a guest bedroom with a full queen size bed or king size bed. I mean, I'm like, I never am in that damn room. Yeah, and I get guests maybe once a year, if that. Yeah. I don't need that big of a bed for a guest. You know what I mean? So there's things. I live in the most expensive place in the United States, in Silicon Valley. Yeah. It's a total shithole too right now. It's like there's homeless people everywhere. It's really disgusting here right now. It's really sad to see what San Jose has turned into. But it's like there's a lot of things that people they've spent a lot of money on things that they don't need, and they end up in positions that they shouldn't be in if they would just conservatively spent their money on things that they did need and just worried about the little tiny things and made it their own. Like I said, when I moved to my house, it wasn't my dream home, but I made it the way I wanted it. And that's important. Do the things you want, put the money into the house. Your house should always keep its value. Sure, it's going to go up and down, but if you're going to be there for 10, 15 years, the market's going to change so much. Just try to sell on a high and, get out and buy on a low. Yeah. That's really what it comes down to.
What's up, everybody? I am here in Thailand. This is the first time I've ever been here. Been dying to come here for years. Mike Swick, he's one of the big reasons he's been trying to pull me down here. What he built down here, AKA Thailand, is incredible. There's people here from all over the world. You can train mixed martial arts here, jiu-jitsu. They have weightlifting, they have cardio, and obviously they have Muay Thai, boxing, everything. I'm telling you guys, I know everybody wants to go to Thailand because Thailand's so cool, but you can't come to Thailand without coming to AKA Thailand. Come on.
Switching gears a little bit, I'm going to get your take on the state of the UFC's 155 division because it's so interesting right now. And I just want to get some quick predictions from you real fast. Obviously, we got Chandler versus Oliveira. We got Ferguson versus Dariush. We got Conor versus Poirier. What's gonna happen with all these fights? And like, what's your quick prediction on these fights? And who do you think is going to come out ahead and be the top dog when this is all said and done? When there's one left standing of all these guys, not necessarily after this fight. Obviously, I want your prediction on these fights, but after this fight, and then they mix again, and there's that champion, and then the champion defends. Who do you think is going to be the top dog of this group, or at least the couple top dogs?
Look, it's really hard for me to tell right now. I mean, look, I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, and I want people to understand. Look, I'm not a big fan of Michael Chandler, but you can't take away the fact that he's damn good.
He's good.
You know, he's got big power. He's shorter and stocky, so he's going to be harder to take down. He's got phenomenal wrestling. He's got nasty ground and pound. When he gets on your neck, he rips it right off. You know, and so you can't take anything away from him. His defense to leg kicks is suspect. You know, so I think guys like a Justin Gaethje might be able to give him some problems, but other guys, like, to me, like, and as much as I'm a big fan of Dustin Poirier, I don't know if Dustin can beat him.
Really?
I mean, we saw the fight that Dan Hooker had with Dustin Poirier just right before he fought Chandler, and it was a big difference. You know, the power is there, and don't get me wrong, Dustin got a great chin. You know, and Dan normally has, you know, really good chin as well. But when we're having the conversation about who I think right now, the way it all sits, I mean, I would say it's probably going to. I think Chandler walks through Oliveira. I don't think Oliveira has a chance, and especially as the fight goes on, they both tend to slow down. Chandler's got more power. Chandler's very accurate. He's a lot faster and more explosive. You know, he's going to have to get past Oliveira's push kick. But Chandler's never been submitted. Not to say that he won't be submitted, that Oliveira doesn't have a chance to submit him. He does, but he's never been submitted. He's been caught in a lot of really, really deep stuff, never given up. People get on his back all the time, and he's able to reverse, get on top. And when he ends up on top, he's nasty in the ground and pound area. Look, I don't know if you ever recall training with Justin Wilcox. But that's a big. Yeah,
you can't do anything, dude. It's like he had his arms and his legs is just like muscles. You can't do anything.
And he reminds me a lot of Michael Chandler. And so when you're talking, how do you beat him? Like, Justin was so hard to submit because his legs were shorter. He could clear his knee for knee bars all the time. Arm bars, it was hard to get. And not to mention he's physically strong, so trying to break his grip was almost impossible. Right. Getting on the neck, what neck? Like, he doesn't have a neck, But the remedy for him, for Justin Wilcox, was the same thing that Chandler's going through right now, is that calf kick. That calf kick, Chandler is susceptible to because he's got a wide base. He kind of lunges in also, so if you catch him while he's lunging in, there's a good chance you could slow him down throughout the fight. He's already had one fight where he lost the title to Brett Primus in Bellator because he had that drop foot situation where Primus had kicked him twice and his foot wouldn't respond, so the nerve is dead, and so they had that drop foot situation. They had to stop the fight. So I've seen him, throughout his fight, throughout his career, take damage to the leg, and he has not been able to recover. I think he's got kind of those chicken leg kind of things, like where it's all nerve and muscle, and then a little bit and then the bone is there. So it's so lean, and then he goes right to that nerve, and he has a hard time. So if the remedy is like, that's why I said somebody like a Justin Gaethje has a good chance of possibly beating him, because Justin's got a granite chin, and then on top of it, I wouldn't say he's hard to take down because we just saw what Khabib did to him. So I think Chandler could take him down. Chandler could probably submit him on the ground, but in the process of him getting taken down, does Chandler eat a punch? Oh, does Chandler and Gaethje's leg kicks are just nasty, So there's a lot of questions to be answered in that fight, I think. But I think after this fight, I think it's going to be Michael Chandler will be the champion after he beats Oliveira, and then you're going to see probably the winner of Dustin and Conor. I don't know. I don't know if Dustin and Conor. And look, I'm not trying to take anything away from Dustin. I think Dustin's a fucking savage, but we all know this. Styles make matchups. Then the leg kick situation, the push kick into the breadbasket, all those things that keep range. Conor McGregor does that better than anyone. Well, he did up until his last fight. So if we get that same old Conor McGregor back, we get that one back that keeps the toe kick in the belly, like how he fought Chad Mendes. That type of scenario with a straight left and keep him on the end of your punch, he's going to be hard to beat. He's going to be a hard person to fight. Dustin will stand in front of you and take shots to give shots, and that's not something I think a lot of people want to do with Chandler.
Yeah.
And so, and I would still call that still a 50-50 fight. You know, I still would say that Dustin maybe has a 60-40 advantage over Chandler if he can drag it into the deep rounds like he did with Dan Hooker. But I don't know if he can. You know, Dan Hooker thought he could do it, and it took one round. So there's a lot. There's a lot of great fights. I think the best thing that could have happened for the UFC, I mean, maybe not for them in their eyes, was that Khabib retired. You know, and he officially just said that we haven't retired, and now it's open. It's fair game. Let's let the fun begin for all the guys that none of those guys, not even Chandler. None of them were going to beat Khabib. You know that, and I know that. Yeah. You know, I know maybe people think we're a little biased because we train with him. But absolutely not. Tell me how those guys beat him. Tell me. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, there's no way. He's levels above everybody else, and that's why I even think he can go to 70 and win the title there if he wanted to. You know, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Usman, but I'm sorry, but I think Khabib beats him.
Yeah.
I think Khabib would beat Usman. He would destroy Colby Covington. Colby couldn't take him down. There's no way Colby's taking him down, and Colby can't stand with him because Colby's stand-up is garbage. You know what I mean? So it's you know, it's not good. You know, and Khabib, everyone's like, oh, well, Khabib's stand-up is not good either. Okay,
he's got good stand-up,
yeah. But he mixes up all of his takedowns with his stand-up. You know, yeah, and Colby's gonna end up having to stand the whole fight because he ain't taking him down. So I mean, I've seen top 3-time national champ wrestlers, people that were on the Olympic circuit, you know, not be able to take him down. If they did take him down, they couldn't hold him down. You know, what you guys see of him, you guys haven't even, like, the majority of people haven't even seen a fraction of how good Khabib is because he hasn't had to be pushed to that limit. Yeah. That's the thing. You know, no one's pushed him. No one's pushed him to motivate, like, not to motivate him, but no one's pushed him to the point where you saw the dog in him. We've seen the dog in training. I've seen the dog in him in training when the guys have come in, they were 170, you know, some guys, they were 185. I remember when he got in that sparring match with Frank Munoz, Frank Munoz was a kickboxer, I think from Italy or Spain. And he was tall, long, lanky, almost like a John Jones looking dude. Good kickboxer. And Khabib just fucking ragdolled him because he was trying to go hard with Khabib. Just trying to kick hard to the head, all those things. Khabib got pissed off. He was like, hey man, I'm getting ready for a fight. And just fucking took him down and just mauled him. And people had to pull Khabib off of him because he's like, bro, I'm getting ready for a big fight right now and you're fucking trying to knock my head off. Khabib got pissed off, you know, and just took him down, got on top of him, and just started beating the shit out of him. And I was like, damn. I was like, damn. You know, and here you have a 55-pounder mauling a guy who fights, you know, he walks around probably 210, 205, and cutting to 85 to fight there. So good stuff. I mean, like, the division, I think, is wide open now. But I think your top two is obviously Dustin Poirier and Michael Chandler.
I was going to agree with
those
that.
Are my. Yeah, I think those guys. If Dustin can beat Chandler or Connor,
I think it's gonna be consistency too. I mean, like, you look at guys like Chandler, he's gonna be consistent, and you look at guys, it's consistently good. You look at guys like Poirier, he's pretty consistent as well. Connor, we don't know, right? So Connor could come back and fight really good in this fight because he's super motivated because he got beat, and then not fight as good in his next fight. I don't think the consistency is as much there because he's moved on. Kind of his foot's kind of out the door. Gaethje, again, is one of my favorite fighters and can beat anyone any given day. I don't see the consistency of being a champion for, like, defending his title 5 times in a row. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think it's going to come down to what you said, Poirier and Chandler, and that's going to be the two guys that are going to be battling it out to be the number one guy and take over the lightweight division, in my opinion, as well. I don't think Ferguson and Dariush are going to step up and be able to hang with any of those top guys like that. They're going to have a great fight together, but I don't think it's going to go much past that.
Yeah, no. Like, the thing with, look, and I'm going to get a lot of flack for this because people think that I'm going to bag on Tony, but I'm not bagging on Tony, man. I'm a huge fan of Tony. Man. And people think that, like, oh, because I lost him, I can give two shits, bro. I've moved on with my life and I have a great life. Okay, so like I said, when it comes to fighting, like, the fighting to me was never an end all be all. I mean, I was talking about retiring when I was 30 years old. You know, when I was 29 and 30 years old during my prime because I didn't want to fight past 30. Tony is in the same position that, say, somebody like Thomson and Mike is in right now. He's had 2 really bad losses. Bad. Yeah. You know, the Gaethje fight was horrible.
Right.
That amount of damage in a fight, you're really never the same. You know, and I can say that because at my age, I think I was 38 I was 37 or 38 when I fought Tony, my last fight in the UFC. And I wasn't the same after that.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was I already knew I was already on the decline, but that just sped it up, and I just knew I wasn't the same. I knew that, man, you can't have a fight like that take that much damage, and be the same fighter after that. And he wasn't the same fighter. You saw him fight Oliveira. Yeah. He looked a fraction of himself, And don't get me wrong, I think he still has some miles in the tank. I get like more so than Donald does, but in that division at 155, it's murderer's row.
Yeah.
And there's no up and down, man. You're either consistently good,
that's what I was saying.
or you're shark bait.
Yep.
And that's really what it comes down to. And so it's I have nothing against him. I just think Dariush beats him. And after Dariush beats him, but the problem with Dariush is that I don't think he'll be champion either. He leaves himself out of position a lot. He's good all the way around. He overextends himself on punches and kicks. He keeps his hands down. All of those things that make you a good technical fighter, he doesn't have. He doesn't possess. He is good. There's no doubt. I love watching him fight. He's very entertaining. The fact that he leaves his hand down is what makes him entertaining. But you can't expect. You don't see guys like that unless they're like a Michael Venom Page.
Right.
The hands are, but they're super fast. They're really long. And their footwork is just nasty good. Those are the guys that have success with that. Not guys like Dariush where like they leave them. He's a dog. He's someone that just loves to fight, and he's phenomenal to watch fight. But he leaves himself out of position too much. The top guys, like Dustin or Chandler or other guys will take advantage of him. So I don't see him becoming champion either.
That's cool that we agreed on that. You're really good at this, man. Like you really watch all the fights and break them down. You're way better than me at that, which is why I interview people versus like do the analytical stuff. So I'm happy that I just agree with you and had the same assessment of those guys. Real quick before we go, I want to ask you. I have to ask you about this.
Hey, let me get one assessment from you.
Okay, go ahead.
And maybe I'm putting you on the spot.
You are for sure.
I am. My take is, what is your take? What you just heard my take on Michael Chandler. What is your take on Michael Chandler? Why was Michael Chandler never considered a top 10 guy until he went to the UFC?
I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch a lot of his fights in Bellator. I thought he had a fantastic fight against Hooker. I think he's very well-rounded. I think from what I've seen his fights before, a lot of his highlights and stuff. He seems to be consistent. Obviously, I know his record, and I know who he's beat, who he's lost to. He seems to be very consistent and powerful, like all the things that you said, I agree with. But I have not seen every single fight, so I haven't seen him be in danger and pull out of danger and beat people that were, he's the one that I'm the least experienced in watching. And for me, it's like I don't get to watch every single fight, so I pick and choose the main fights. And then obviously all my podcast guests, I watch their fights and get caught up with them. But I don't have the time to watch every single fight, every single card, every single show. But I just feel like he's more consistent and he's very dangerous in many areas. And with that wrestling background, that's very dangerous because when you can take someone down as well as knock them out like he does, I just feel like that's a dangerous recipe to have. Poirier, I think, also has gotten so much better and is very consistent as well. He's a consistently good fighter. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. I agree with what you said about Conor, but it's just Conor I don't think is going to be as consistent. And I think Conor's 1 foot out the door. Even if he comes back strong, what can he really do? He's not that hungry guy that he used to be, in my opinion. And Gaethje, I feel, is just incredible striker. I think he's got, crazy strikes. He can do a lot of different things, but we saw him get shut down with Khabib. So he does have the ability to get shut down and get taken down. And I think he's been caught as well. I think he's a very dangerous fighter who also can get caught as well as catch other people, which we've seen. And I don't think that's the consistency that's going to hold the division and be a multiple-time world champion. I think it's going to be a guy that's going to be a dangerous guy every single time you fight him, but it's not going to be a guy consistently that's going to win every time. Chandler's a guy I think that with the right strategy, and Poirier as well, but even more so with Chandler with the wrestling and the power, and if he can continue on with what I have seen of him, he has the abilities to form a consistent, I've said this a million times already, but consistency to continue on winning against these guys and formulating game plans that can actually work, because I think he has a wide variety in his arsenal that he can use to neutralize and eliminate his opponents. And that's why I say that.
Well, if I was going to tell you to go back through and you watch any of Chandler's fights, you watch the 2 Eddie Alvarez fights, and then you watch the Benson Henderson fight, the first one, I mean, he lets you know that he's a dog.
Yeah.
You know, he's someone that,
He's
and
tough.
the Brent Primus fight as well. I would say the second Brent Primus fight. I mean, he had a good performance. He did get tired. You know, took a lot of leg kicks, all those things. But those 3 fights, though, the Eddie and the first Benson fight, like if you're gonna go back and do a little bit of research, you know, those are the fights to watch. No, my original question was based off of why is it that all of a sudden a guy who's been consistently good, like you've said, he's consistently good throughout his whole career, he's been consistently good. Was never really considered a top 10 guy because he was in Bellator, but now all of a sudden he gets 1 win against Dan Hooker, and now he's fighting for the title.
I get it.
Look, my job with my podcast, and I hope one day you kind of make it yours as well, and no pressure at all there, Swick, is to bring the spotlight to the sport.
Right.
You know what I mean? To bring the spotlight to fighters that don't get the recognition they deserve. Because if I look at what Strikeforce happened, right? There's a lot of fighters that left or they were cut from the UFC that circled back around and came into Strikeforce and then made their careers beyond that. Robbie Lawler, he was cut by the UFC, you know, and then he made full circle, came back around and went back into the UFC and became a star and became a champion, a multiple time defending world champion, phenomenal fighter. There was other fighters that had done the same thing. And so when I'm having this conversation about, I want to start bringing spotlights, you know, that's what I'd like to use our podcast for, is to bring the spotlight to these other fighters that are in other organizations to show how damn good they are.
Yeah.
Like we've got a guy in Bellator, his name's Yaroslav Amosov. He's 25-0. He's got the best record in the whole sport of MMA.
Oh, shit.
Except for Khabib. Like Khabib's retired though, but now he's got the best record in all of MMA. He's fighting Douglas Lima, and Douglas Lima just went 5 rounds with Gegard Mousasi, who went up in weight. Now he's coming back down to 70. But Yaroslav Amosov, he's phenomenal, man. Never really wrestled, has a little bit of a sambo background, but never really wrestled like when he was younger. He's got some stand-up. He's just one of those all really well-rounded stuffing takedowns, you know, against top guys. He was actually able to hip toss and take down Ed Roots several times in their fight when they fought. It was a great fight. He fought Logan Storley, who I think is like a 6 or 7 time state champ for South Dakota wrestling, you know, South Dakota State wrestling, and also multiple time All-American. So like when I'm looking at these guys, Logan Storley was a phenomenal fight for him. It was a great fight. Now he's fighting Douglas Lima. It's like there's a lot of guys. There's Costello Van Steenisen, Fabian Edwards. There's Austin Vanderford, you know, all from Bellator. You know, they've got a lot of good talent over in one championship as well. And the PFL now, we're seeing Clay Collard just beat Anthony Pettis. You know, this Verdum, he just lost his last fight, which was a kind of a weird situation. But my objective right now with our podcast, you know, and then my platform that I have across social media is to let all the fighters know that I support what they're doing. I want to try to bring you as much money as I possibly can and try and help them grow their brand. And for God's sake, take the name UFC out of your Twitter handle. Okay, don't do that. Yeah. Just make it about you. Build your brand. Your brand is not UFC. Your brand is you. You know, and do that. You know, I think, and that goes for every promotion. I think fighters need to brand themselves, do the best they can at branding themselves, and if they can do that, I think they're gonna have a successful career. Make it about themselves. You know, so fighting is a very selfish sport. You know that. Yeah. You know, you're one of the selfish people I met. So it was
one of the toughest people you lose round after round to. I know, I get it.
We loved to hit each other. It was fun.
We did.
But no, like, you know, you were a great person, man. You are a great
Thanks,
person.
Man, you too.
You know, and you were so great to train with and so fun, and you know, and we had our spiffs here and there, you know, but it was still fun. We had a great time.
Hey, we never fought each other outside the ring. That's good. Going as far as your reputation, that's pretty good that I never got in a brawl with you. So that after how many 10, 12 years together, that's pretty. That's something to brag about, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I got into it with a bunch of people, but you know. But it was good. I mean, I think, but look, I think fighters need to have it about themselves.
Absolutely. So
they can build a brand for themselves after fighting. And this all goes into the Donald Cerrone thing. He's built a great brand for himself. I just hope it gets to the next level. And the next level for him would be like a TV show or something, you know, some sort of reality show that he can capitalize on. I feel the same way about Clay Guida and Chad Mendes. I follow them on Instagram and stuff, and then they're so fun, man. They're fun to watch. And so those are the things that I love. I think they can make a TV show out of it.
I've had Clay on the show, and he's absolutely phenomenal. But I wanted to clear two things up real fast. First of all, it's an entertainment sport, right? And I'm in the entertainment side. I'm a fan right now. So with the Chandler question that you asked me, I didn't follow him a lot in Bellator, but I did when he got all the hype coming in UFC. I was along with the other guys. Like, so he had one fight. What's going on? Why is he getting so much hype? But then he had so much hype, it made me research him. And then I looked, and he's on a 3-fight, KO win streak. And, I sort of had to do the research from the hype. So the hype built him to me. I was sold like a fan, went and did research, and I said, okay, maybe, the hype was a big factor there. And I do also want to say, even though I have a lot of UFC guys on the show, because I have a lot of UFC connections and with the UFC, and I've been in the UFC for so long, I am 100%, just so you understand and everyone else understands, in agreement that the UFC doesn't necessarily have all the best fighters. And I think there are fantastic fighters in other organizations, though I don't get to watch a lot of them because I just can't watch a fight every 2 days. And it's not my job like yours. But, there are plenty of fighters that should be in the UFC or should be in their own organization they're in right now and be champions and do good, that are some of the best fighters in the world. And I think they're out there, and they're gonna have their time. And I agree with you on that, like this guy you talked about. And so, 100% I agree with that. And we've seen the guys from the UFC leave the UFC and lose dominantly, like fast. It's not just a fluke. They're fighting guys that are legitimately tough, that just one organization doesn't have all the best fighters. And I agree with you on that. And I'm a UFC guy to the core.
Yeah, because you look at Benson when he came over to Bellator, he couldn't buy a win, and then Gorito was, I don't think we call him Gorito, is Jose Perez. He just fought. He finally got his first win after 3 fights in Bellator. Guys that have left the UFC, he left the UFC on a 7-2 fight streak. He was like 7-2 in the UFC, and he left there to came to Bellator for more money, and he hasn't had any success. And even this last fight, sure, it was a good fight, but it wasn't the type of performance you would expect to say coming from someone that. Coming from the UFC, you would think like, oh wow, this guy's gonna mop all these guys. That has not been the case at all. And I'm not here to just bag on that. But Anthony Pettis went over to PFL, and just to be in all fairness, in all honesty, if you watch my podcast weighing in with John, we talked about this. I didn't know who Clay Collard was. John did. And so I'm like, I don't know who he is. I'm like, how good is he? He's like, he's good. He's really good. He's going to come forward. He's going to pressure him. He can take a shot. He's a big guy for the weight class. Pettis is going to have a hard time. And sure as shit, he had a hard time. He had a really hard time that he lost. It was a good fight. It was back and forth, but there was, in the first 2 rounds, it was all Clay Collard, and the third round could have been maybe a tiebreaker, because, Clay Collard got dropped with a head kick, but it was still a great fight. You know what I mean? But it was one of those fights where I see even myself, I'm over here doing all the research on these guys and these standout fighters. But even myself, I didn't know who Clay Collard was, and a huge win for him over, Anthony Pettis, a legit win, and people were like, oh yeah, because I think if Anthony would have went back down to 55, he would have had some success. Yeah. I don't think he would have been champion, but he probably would have been back in the top, say 6, maybe 6, somewhere in there, because I think fights like him versus, Dustin Poirier, fights like him versus, what's his name, Charles Oliveira, I think those fights would be tailor made for him. Those would be great fights for him, so there's a lot of fights to be had still, I believe. It's just, I want to make sure that my focus is really developing these fighters that don't have a big enough platform, and that's kind of that's a big reason why I like to do the podcast that we do.
Absolutely, just really, really fast. I know you got to go and everything, but I have to ask you, just outside of the realm, just a little bit, the Logan Paul Mayweather fight. Do you have any interest in that at all? And is that just I would rather see Jake fight Mayweather, to be honest with you, because I think that would be a much better fight. I want to see one of those guys get beat really, really bad in a fighting realm. But do you think that's a crazy? First of all, do you think that's just a crazy fight? I almost don't want to pay for it just to support it, because I think the Logan Paul Floyd fight, I don't want to support that fight at all, even though I would pay to watch Jake fight him. And what do you think about that crossover as far as guys going over there and boxing, and especially guys like this with this clout and this influencer status, being able to just kind of bash everybody? And I took it personal at first. Now I don't care. He's playing the game. I get it. But we're fighters. We have pride, and he hasn't proven that. He's one of the most famous boxers in the world. I'm talking about Jake, not Logan. He has a top 10 pay-per-view, I guess, if the stats are correct. And he's definitely one of the most demanded boxers in the sport, but he's never fought a boxer, and he's never even fought a guy who trained in boxing. It's crazy to me. It's fucking crazy. He's never even fought a guy that trained in boxing, and he's one of the biggest names in boxing. It's crazy. I'm just blown away by it.
That's I've said this, and that's what makes boxing a shit show right now.
It's crazy, right?
No one gives a shit about boxing. Get me wrong. Canelo just fought the other night, and people aren't really talking about it.
I didn't even watch it, actually, to be honest. It was last night or something.
That's the thing. Like, people aren't even talking about it. It's like you have the best boxer, I think, in boxing right now, outside of
He's great, yeah.
Terrence Crawford. You know, Terrence Crawford's right there. I think Terrence Crawford's number one. But you know, you've got these guys that are fucking just leaps and bounds above everybody in boxing, but there's no fights for them. No one's putting their kids in boxing and thinking like, oh, I'm gonna be a world champion. That ship has sailed, man. Majority of them now are coming over to the MMA world, and if they're not, then you know they're going to try and join the sport doing something else. So my take on it is that this is the position that boxing in. It's a shit show. This is only adding to it. I think the whole situation is a joke, and it has nothing to do with being personal about it because, you know, oh, he beat Ben Askren, he's the MMA guy. Big John said it best. Why are you guys lowering your level to go fight this guy in a position that you guys only train a fraction of your training in? You know, sure, a lot of you guys box. He's not fighting boxers. He's not picking out boxers. He's picking out people that historically don't have good stand up. You know, what do you think is going to happen? You know, I think we all thought that Ben could take the shot and then kind of walk through him, put pressure on him. Ben didn't take that approach. Ben stood on the outside and tried to box with him. I thought Ben was just going to walk him down and cover up, and make him fight going backwards, and then see if he won't have the same power going backwards. No one does, you know. And I also thought he would gas, you know, from the pressure. It was a big fight. You saw him come out a little bit more composed versus when he fought the basketball player Nate Robinson. Yeah. He came out really aggressive, swinging wild against Nate Robinson. He didn't come out that way against Ben. So he knew he respected Ben a little bit more. In terms of the Mayweather thing, Logan, the reason why it makes it so interesting is that you're going to end up probably watching Mayweather fight both of them anyways. Yeah, he's going to beat Logan. He's going to handle Logan. And then Jake's going to try to slide himself in there right after, and he's going to handle Jake as well. Yeah. Both of those guys. They're both athletes. They're both big guys. They're both way bigger than Mayweather. I don't know if you've ever met Mayweather, but he's a tiny, tiny man. Yeah. You know, so I want to say he's only like 5'6". He's not a big guy. He might be 5'7", but I highly doubt it. He's only probably like 5'6". He's skinny. He's small. He's always training though. I mean, but he looks like he's a homeless man right now. I mean, did you see him at the presser? Yeah. Like, scruffy beard. He's first time I ever seen him with hair.
He's at least brush his hair under the hat.
I was like, bro, do something to yourself. Come on, man.
Yeah, look bad.
So all that being said, he's still probably the greatest boxer to ever do it. You know, or one of them, anyways. Those guys aren't going to touch him. I get nervous because Conor was able to touch him, you know, here and there. But Big John had also brought it to my attention. He's like, you know, he carried Conor. He carried Conor all the way to the 10th round. It's almost like he bet on himself in the 10th round because those were the best odds that he could get off of his money. And then he went out there and finished him in the 10th round.
And Logan's going to be slower too. He's going to be bigger, but he's going to be slower. And he's 0-1 as a boxer. It's just, it blows my mind he's getting this fight. Like, I can't believe anyone's going to. I don't know. It's crazy to me. Like, Jake Paul makes more sense to me, but it's still both. The fact that Mayweather's fighting these guys is just such an insane to me. It's so insane. It's crazy to me. I don't get it.
The one benefit is that it's on Showtime. By the way.
Oh, I didn't know.
It's on Showtime.
Okay.
Yeah, see, it's not on Triller.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. That's the one benefit of it, is that at least the production and the commentary will be better, because Triller's fucking production and commentary is just horrible. Just absolutely horrible. You know, and so I think it's going to be, it'll look like a bigger fight on Showtime. Yeah. Doesn't mean that it is a bigger fight. Yeah. It just means it's going to look like one. The one that, you know, in Triller, it looks like a shit show. It looks like my buddies and I put it together in the garage in the backyard, and we rolled it out onto a mat and said, okay, here's the ring. Okay, everyone get in there. Let's fight. It almost like a battle royal type kid. Yeah. You know, it's all black and dungy and nah. But what my thoughts on it are, Mayweather's not going to get touched. He's probably going to get him out of there maybe as fast as possible. Maybe Logan he'll carry for a little bit, but you know, with what's his name? With
that power from Jake, he'll put him out probably fast.
Yeah, but if he ends up fighting Jake, I think he just torches Jake. I think he does to him what he did to the Japanese kid on New Year's a couple of years ago. Where he just got,
that's my boy too. That sucked.
He got him out of there quick because the story on him getting him out of there quick is he wanted to jump on a flight and get back to Vegas for New Year's ball drop.
You know, that kid, Tenshin, though, is one of the best kickboxers you've ever seen in your entire life. That guy is phenomenal kickboxer.
Yeah. Yeah, but see, kickboxing is not boxing.
And that shows you he's a phenomenal striker and looked like a child when he fought Mayweather in boxing.
Yeah, it was he was a child.
Well, he is
He
too.
was.
He's like 22 right now or something like that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, but you got to look at when Floyd beat Canelo. Canelo, I think, was only 20 years old. He was 20 years old, I think, when he beat him. Maybe 20 or 22, but I think he was 20 at the time when he beat him. And he jumped on him quick. He's like, "No, let me get him out of here. Let me get him. Let me fight him now while he's still young, so he can have that loss on his record by me." You know what I mean? He was smart. Floyd's a smart guy. Look, this is a big ass money grab for him.
Yeah.
Floyd's going to sell probably Floyd himself. His name is going to probably sell at least 1.2 million, 1.3 million in pay-per-views. I'd say at least 1 million. And then you add the trolls, the two Logan trolls, the poodle-haired kids, and then you add their viewers and their followers fighting Mayweather. I mean, it's going to be up there, probably in the 1.6. I say maybe 1.6 to 2. I'd say somewhere 1.6 to 1.8 in pay-per-views.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
and
crazy.
Mayweather's going to make the majority of that money.
Yeah, of course. I mean, running the whole business himself is a smart thing. I mean, I think he's one of the most highest paid athletes, like percentage-wise, because he does everything himself. Yeah. No other athlete has ever taken control of their own career like he has. So, I mean, hats off to him for that, finding the right people, because he gets a little bit of every single thing. You go into a stadium to watch him fight, and you drink a Coke and eat some popcorn, Floyd's getting some of that money. Like, he gets a piece of every single thing.
Yeah, and that's like when I was talking earlier about Eddie Alvarez. That's what Eddie has done throughout his career. He's gone everywhere and made the most money, and he showed not. I don't want to say he didn't show any loyalty to the promotion of the company. No, he just knew what was best for him and his family and his life expectancy after fighting, and that's kind of how fighters need to be. You need to test the free agency and free agency market, and see, how well, how well you can get paid outside of it, because there was a time where, like, Gilbert, I want to say his fight after he renegotiated his contract, he ended up getting paid a ton of money, man, after the Diego fight. Mm. And they also had like a no cut clause. I want to say he was making like $300,000 a fight. Wow. Like, I remember, and he rattled off towards the end of his stint with the UFC. He rattled off, I'd say, 6 losses in a row, 5 losses in a row, and they were still trying to re-sign him. You know what I mean? And he's a phenomenal fighter. It's just that, like, he's getting a little bit older too. He's got some miles on him, and stylistically he hasn't changed. He's the same fighter that when him and I fought 3 times. And so, it's just you got to go out there and go where the money is. Try out the free agency market and see exactly what happens.
Yeah. Well, listen, I know you got to go, man, and I appreciate taking the time out. I held you for longer than I should have. I know you got a busy day. I appreciate it, man. Great having you on the show. Great talking to you, bro. You've been my teammate for so long, and like I never get to talk to you. So this has been great to have an hour to talk to you and talk about the headlines and stuff, and just talk to you in general. So thanks for coming back on my show again, and I'm sure you'll be on my show again before I'm on your show ever. So I'll see you next time on my show again in the future, 10 months, 6 months, whatever the hell it is going to be.
Well, the hardest part is, like, you're not willing to get up at 6 a.m. like I am for you, or 5 a.m. like you.
No way, bro. I'm my own boss for that. I'm my own boss for that reason, dude. Because I don't want to get yelled at for sleeping, going into work late. But I stay up till 4, dude, because I'm on U.S. time on business too. So I do business in the States and the U.S. So it's like I'm dealing with stuff and the podcast and everything. So I'm up till like 3 and 4 in the morning. So I get up at like 11, maybe 10, 11, get to the gym by like 1 or 2,
Wow.
But I put it, dude, nobody works harder than me, bro. I promise you. But my hours are a little off.
Yeah.
They're spread out. But hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it, brother. It's good talking to you, man. And great insight, great input, man. You're fucking awesome. And your podcast weighing in for everybody who doesn't know, which is impossible. Everybody knows already, weighing in with Big John McCarthy and you. It's a fantastic podcast. Love it. You're doing great, man. It's so good to see it grow and see you grow from when you started and like how big it is now, man, and how many views you guys get and how great y'all are, man. Y'all make some great points, and I listened to it, and it's fantastic. So great to have you on the show, man, and good luck with everything that you're doing. You're doing a lot of fantastic stuff with Bellator, with your show, with everything, and you deserve it, man. So good job.
Thank you for having me on, as always, and I appreciate it. And yes, we are going to get you on. I'll make sure I'll go to the board right now and make sure
I'm easy to book, bro. I'm easy to book. I'm your easiest guest to book ever.
You sleep till 1. That's not easy for me.
That's all right. We can do this time. We'll do this time, dude.
Hey, it's always a pleasure, my man. I actually love catching up with you. And like I said, if you ever need someone to come on just to shoot the shit, if you have a hard time booking other fighters, you can call me anytime, and I'd love to come on.
Absolutely, bro. You got to get to Phuket, man. I'm telling you this all the time. But dude, anytime you're ready, just text me, hit me up, and I'll show you a great time.
I appreciate it, brother.
All right, take care, dude.
Take care.